As always, this podcast is AI free.
Okay, I hope everybody likes the new intro for the Magic Island episodes. I know it's a little long, but I think it's worth it.
Somebody brought him back from the grave. And I want to know how they did it.
You think you could take these people's secrets and just walk away?
I put a spell on you.
I'll take your soul.
There's a door to the mystical.
And you just walk through it.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
Death is not the end.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. I'm not mentioning their names because I don't want them to come and attack me. I've had enough trouble out of them today. But they're fine. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and these cats. Get over it. And, as I mentioned in the last episode, this is gonna be Skullbeard and I reading from Magic Island. It is an interesting section we're reading. And I have not numbered this episode to keep with the whole numbering scheme. So just think of this as 515 rather than the last episode. Because if I call it 514, then when I do a news episode, that'll be if I call this 516, the next episode will be a news episode, and that'd be 517, and that throws the system I've had off since basically I started the podcast. So I'm not doing it that way. And I know I said I was going to get this out before now, but there's a reason for that. Oh God, here he comes. Hello, Fuzznuts. Why don't you sit there, and then you'll be no trouble at all. But of course you can't do that. You got to keep wandering around. Get away from the mic, buddy. Get away from the mic. Thank you. The day after I posted the episode, I had an interview, and so I had to go do that, and then I had to do all the other shit one has to do. Buddy, stay away from the mic. Stay away from the mic. Okay, now he's on my shoulders. He's just... Buddy, please. It's hot as hell in this house right now, and the last thing I need is a warm kitty. Okay, so anyways, my free time was spent doing the usuals to get the new job, which I got, and I start tomorrow. There are some positives and negatives to the job. Positive, day shift. Negative, it's a 10-hour day, so I have to be there at 6 o'clock in the goddamned morning, which means as I'm recording this, I have to get to bed in a little over an hour if I want to be able to get up on time. Another positive, 10-hour days. So I only work 4 days a week. The negative is the facility is not air conditioned. They do have ventilation, but it's going to be hotter than a motherfucker in there. So we'll just have to see how it goes. And hopefully it works out as a good job. It pays about what I was making, so that's a positive. It's in a different field than I've ever worked before, but not one so different that I think I'm going to have a steep learning curve. Basically, what they do are they make cabinets. They make parts for cabinets, not merely kitchen cabinets, but also cabinets like you'd find in a business. So, yeah, maybe when the economy gets worse, there'll be a problem, but hopefully I'll have been there long enough so that if there is a problem and I get laid off, I can draw unemployment. We'll just have to see. So, anyways, to remind all the Patreon supporters, this is a free episode, so don't worry about getting billed for it. Depending on how the work goes, depends on when the next episode comes out. I'll keep you posted. And as always, if you're curious about something, check my account on Blue Sky, which is Tucker Drake, because that's where I post things related to the show. I've given up on the Facebook page. Facebook just makes it too difficult to use that shit. So, fuck them. I'm not using it anymore. I know it's costing me, but whatever. So, anyways, I have got a bunch of shit to do to get ready for my job tomorrow. And I got to be thinking about hitting the hay here real soon. So, I will talk to all of you as soon as I can. In the meantime, here is Skullbeard and I reading more from the Magic Island. And yeah, it's getting really kind of interesting, folks.
And we're at only one thing remained to be done, and it seemed a mere courteous formality.
Yep.
It was to inform Cabro quietly. I'm going to guess it was Cabro. And unofficially, motherfucker, I had to take the long one, didn't I? So that he might keep his royal back turned and his royal eyes closed on that night. Cabro was the brown-skinned Haitian lieutenant chief of gendarmerie for the Croix de Bouquet district, but unofficially he was political king of the cul-de-sac plain. Wow. I'm not sure what's going on here, or if they're just taking some tremendous artistic license with language.
Mm-hmm.
Cabro knew that Dor was a Papalois, Diron a Hougan. Cabro knew the location of their Humfor, and knew that from time to time ceremonials technically against the law occurred there. Cabro knew everything, but Cabro was not active in persecuting the religion of his own devoted peasants. I am not suggesting that Cabro was false to his uniform or that he connived overtly in the breaking of the law. He was one of the most conscientious gendarme officers in Haiti, but he couldn't stamp out voodoo if he had wished. And why should he try when many of the wisest and most efficient white captains and lieutenants of other rural districts closed their eyes to many things that went on continually around them? When at Lougain, for example, Lougain, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that, whatever. For instance, and in a village just east of Gonave, there were unburned mystery houses, obvious and unmistakable, within clear sight of the general high road over which the motor cars of white generals frequently passed. So I don't know if these guys are tripping balls or what. But
yeah.
Certainly writes like it.
But it was a duty of courtesy to inform Cabro unofficially, a matter of good faith, as Dort and Diron explained. So on Thursday morning, they were going to tell him.
Thursday night late, a man came into Port-au-Prince from Or-Blanche, finding my house and asking for Louis, with the message that everything was spoiled, that Cabro, for some unaccountable reason, had told them They must not do it.
I was unhappy, and so was Luis. During the night, lying awake, it occurred to me that Cabral might have heard they planned to have a white man present, and for that reason had refused to let them go on. I decided, therefore, that there was a bare chance things might be straightened out if I went to see Cabral myself. I happen to know him personally, and this is how I happen to know him.
Motherfucker, another long one? Jesus. This is just my luck. Some months previous, Major R.H. Davis, Mr. Halliday, and I had gone on a wild guinea hunt, motoring out through Cabros's district and turning 15 miles beyond into the thornbush desert near Tomazo, penetrating 10 miles from the main highway on a dirt road over which autos almost never passed. Toward twilight, just as we got back to the car, a torrential rain fell, which lasted most of the night. We had chains and tried to go through, with the result that soon we were bogged to our axles. An old man appeared out of the mud, rain, and darkness, and I said, "Ou capable joint croco de boeuf?" Literally, "You capable, join, find, great rope 2 bulls?"
Oh, 2 bulls, huh? Non blanc pas capable.
Non blanc pas capable.
He replied in hopeless tones, but when we showed him $6, we chose 6, because it was the exact amount he would earn by working for a solid month in the cane fields. He decided he was capable, whatever, and disappeared to try. Toward midnight, he returned, wading through the mud with a yoke of oxen and the entire male population of a village. Major Davis stayed at the wheel, trying to low speed, while Holiday and I got out and pushed behind with the Negroes. I mean, who else? You're the only white guys there, so...
Mm-hmm.
The old man cracking his whip and shouting at the oxen in front. The engine roared, the oxen tugged. Halliday fell down, and the knee-deep goulash mud got up, cursing to push again. I fell down too, the Negroes laughed, and the car never budged.
Sounds like an adventure to me.
Yeah.
The old man gave up in disgust and blamed us, saying philosophically, "Auto bagay de ville? It's a toy that ought to stay in the city." But another old man, working with his wet black hands in the headlight glare, made a little cross with 2 sticks and a piece of string fished from his pocket, tied it prayerfully to our taillight, and with mighty heaving, the car came out of the hole. They dragged us eventually to the highway. Where a city toy went completely dead. Motherfucker. Well paid they departed, and left us to our now hopeless misery. It was a dreary night and not yet dawn. We were wet through and covered with mud. People now began to pass like ghosts with their donkeys on the way to market. We began hailing them, saying, "Are you going to Croix de Bouquet?" When one said yes, we gave him a half gourd, 10 cents, and said, "Tell Lieutenant Cabral at Gendarmerie Headquarters to send out and rescue us." We sent a string of messages like that, and Cabral, not content with sending a truck with a half-dozen gendarmerie privates aboard, also a mechanic, also spades, tackle, and a thermos bottle full of coffee, came out himself in a touring car to condole us and lend a hand. It was the first time I had ever seen him. He was a magnificent fellow, 6 feet tall, past middle age, handsome as a bronze statue with his fine Kaiser Wilhelm mustache and his skin almost the same color as his Sam Brown belt and polished boots. He was respectfully amused but sympathetic. Furthermore, he took us to his own house at Croix de Bouquet, mud-covered scarecrows that we were, and spread before us a superb breakfast of state. Was he not king of the cul-de-sac, with cut glass decanters of rum delicious and golden? Our friend, Major Davis, had an ingrown prejudice against sitting down at table with Haitians, whom he referred to collectively as darkies, when he was in a good humor, and
The N-word.
The N-word. I was going to say, do I have to fucking read this shit? When in a less amiable mood. I mean, it's not my fucking word. Never has been, never will be. When in a less than amiable mood, and I observe now that the rain and a salutary fasting had purged him of it. He clinked glasses with Cabreau, told him what a splendid chap he was, and we sat there for 2 hours, lighting each other cigarettes and growing more and more friendly. How friendly.
You know, I'm kind of curious about that breakfast. I mean, what breakfast foods go good with rum?
I don't know. I really can't say. I'm guessing something French.
Yeah. Now, looking back on this adventure, lying in bed, miserable and disappointed, recalling also pleasant subsequent meetings with Cabreau, I made up my mind definitely to go out and see him next morning, and did.
After 5 minutes candid conversation with Cabreau, I realized I was encountering some sort of blind obstacle that had no direct connection either with the laws against voodoo or his personal willingness to forget them, or with the fact that I was a white man. There was something else. He told me frankly that there was something, but concerning its precise nature, he remained reticent.
When I returned and reported this to Louis, a light gradually dawned on him. "Ah," said he, and "ah" again. "Mon dit président jour si la fâchie con Cabreau livli couperatete li." I don't know. People say President these days is angry against Cabreau and wishes to chop off his head.
That afternoon, I dropped in at headquarters to chat with General Tourille, Chief of the Gendarmerie de Haiti. Naturally, I did not mention voodoo, but in the course of our casual talk, I said, "By the way, why has Borno got his axe out for Cabreau?"
What a world of irrelevant causes and absurdly disconnected eddying effects we blunder helplessly around in. Big events often upset smaller apple carts, and it was an absurdly disconnected cause of this sort that had upset mine and Louise's.
United States Senator Shipstead is just a name to me, which I may not be even spelling correctly. The Haitians called him Sheepstead, so I'm guessing it would be that. He had come to Haiti on a junket, and Cabreau. So General Tourille told me had given a big rural barbecue in the senator's honor. Cabreau, as I have explained, was more than an ordinary lieutenant of gendarmerie. He was a powerful politician. At this barbecue, sponsored by Cabreau, Senator Shipstead had made an agricultural speech to several hundred peasants. Apparently, it was an old warhorse. The same sort of speech he must have made 100 times at white barbecues in Iowa or wherever he hails from. It was about the importance of the small farmer and contained reiterated phrases that were interpreted to mean, "Hold on to the land." It sounded innocuous and may have been so intended, but at the moment in Haiti it was taken to be highly charged with specific local significance. The signing of a huge irrigation contract backed by American capital was pending, and President Borno, who believed in such developments, was eager to get it signed, but it was involved. but it involved either the purchase or confiscation of thousands of small farms, and Senator Shipstead, whose speech was quoted and made the text of fiery editorials in all the opposition papers, howling that Borno was in league with Wall Street to dispossess and rob his own peasants. Senator Shipstead, the general told me, grinning, he was an old Marine Corps former fighting colonel who didn't give a hoot in hell for politics, had thrown a monkey wrench in the works.
And I have found who that had to have been.
Who, Shipstead?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Heinrich Shipstead.
Heinrich!
He was a Norwegian-American dentist and politician who served in the United States from 1923 to 1947.
Huh. Okay.
This is kind of interesting in his Wikipedia article. He was first elected as a member of the Farmer Labor Party, which is the most successful socialist party in the United States.
Oh, okay.
And they're still around. In fact, they're now the Democrat Farmer Labor Party because the Democratic Party couldn't get a toehold in the state, so they just merged with the Farmer Labor Party.
They really need to work on their acronyms.
Yeah, I know. But he switched parties in 1941 to be a Republican.
Oh, okay. That would involve... Might someone explain the involvement in Haiti at that time?
Well, no, this would have this happened in the early 1920s is when this book was written. So, him being a Republican was not the issue, but it's just it doesn't say why exactly he. Well.
I mean, American politician mucking about in a Caribbean island. I mean, it can't possibly be up to anything that we would call good.
Yeah, but he. It doesn't say why he switched to being Republican. But he was buddies with Henry Ford, so and well, he might have had
the case against him is not getting better, I would say.
No, he might have had a couple of good points, but overwhelmed by
with a name like Heinrich and a friend like Henry Ford.
Yep. President Borno was highly indignant. The general continued, and Cabral, whom he held somewhat to blame, was going to have to watch his step very carefully for the next month or so. It was reported that the president had even sent his private spies into the cul-de-sac seeking to hang something on him, which would justify an executive demand that he be kicked out of the service.
If I had ever read the newspapers or taken any interest in politics, I might have already known most of this and guessed the rest. When I walked out of General Turrell's office, I knew that luck had broken against me.
I need to remind folks that this guy is the grandson of a U.S. president, Chester A. Arthur.
The guy that wrote the book?
Yeah.
This book? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you would think that he would have, some knowledge of politics, just simply by osmosis.
Yeah, well, there's some knowledge you can pick up by osmosis, but being interested in the least is another matter entirely.
One of my reasons for recounting this chronicle of disappointment in such detail is that it may throw an interesting sidelight on the legal status of voodoo in Haiti today. Another is that certain otherwise friendly and more than generous reviewers found what they called my continuous good luck in the Arabian desert a bit monotonous. And I have a blank page for some reason.
Because there's a picture on the next page.
Oh, yeah, that's not offensive at all.
Not in the least.
Mamam Sali, High Priestess of the Mysteries. Wow. And too marvelous. But I suffered 100 untold disappointments and obstacles that had to be deviously circumvented in Arabia. And I feel it best, therefore, to confess that I suffered many similar disappointments in Haiti before I finally reached my goal.
And I must protest at this time because that's another long-ass motherfucking paragraph. Louis's influence did not extend beyond his natal village on the plain, and my path eventually led up into the mountains, but it was Louis who had set my feet on it. Through him and his uncle Dor, I began to understand more definitely what I sought, was able to avoid certain pitfalls, and Louis has my gratitude. Even so, with many a false start in wrong direction, my path was roundabout like Peter Gint's, and more than once the great Boig barred it. The trail led me once through deep ravines in which the sun never shone, thence winding narrowly up the edge of a sheer cliff to the door of a little man with a wizened face and a famous little man, a sort of voodoo hermit saint, who could have wisely taught me all I wished to know and more, but who sneered at my sincerity and said, "There is no such thing as voodoo. It is a silly lie invented by you whites to injure us. Saints are not always amiable." It led once beyond the clouds on Morne Diable to a village whose inhabitants had seen no white face for 8 years, and though on that occasion I rode with the doctor, whose welcome remedies were freely given them, and though they entertained us hospitably for the night, when we arose next morning to go higher up the mountain, they laid hands on our bridles without violence and said, "It is forbidden." And once I fled after being offered hospitality from the habitation of a leering evil old woman full of too eager promises, with greedy fingers already clutching at my pocketbook, who would have cut her own daughter's throat to oblige me for a price. But also I made friends, occasionally saw strange sights, and there were habitations oft returned to where I became known and welcome. Whew.
Chapter 3. The Petro Sacrifice.
Does that mean they're sacrificing some gasoline, or? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Finally, I went to live with Mamam Sili. I had come for an earlier first visit weeks before, not entirely as a stranger to this remote, patriarchal habitation in the mountains, sponsored by a man whom they trusted and made welcome because I was his friend. But now, on Mamam Sali's own suggestion, I had returned alone. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea there, buddy.
Sure. Between Mama Sali and me, there was a bond which I cannot analyze or hope to make others understand, because in my innermost self its roots went deep beyond analysis or conscious reasoning. We had both felt it almost from our first contact. It was as if we had known each other always, had been at some past time united by the mystical equivalent of an umbilical cord, as if I had suckled in infancy at her dark breasts, had wandered far, and was now returning home.
Yeah,
Dude might have some issues.
Yeah, think.
A little bit.
Such mysterious returnings to a place where one has never been. Such strange familiarness of a face that one has never seen. I think these things are within the secret experience of almost every human being. But if one has not at some time felt them, they cannot be explained.
This habitation lost in the high mountains was primitive and patriarchal. There were half a dozen thatched roof buildings in the cleared compound. The little community was ruled by Mama Celie and Papa Theodore, her venerable, less active husband. Its members were their grown sons and daughters, their grandchildren naked from babyhood to puberty, playing in the sunshine among the pigs and goats. The eldest son, Emmanuel, was past 40. The youngest unmarried daughter, Catherine, was 16. Mama Celie herself I guessed to be far past 60. Her sweet black face, like that of an old prophetess, was deeply wrinkled, but her thinness and straightness, her vitality, made her seem sometimes curiously young.
Patches of corn, millet, and cotton clung farther downward above the jungle line on the mountainside. A full mile below, in a green jungle valley, there were there plantains, banana trees, coconut palms, and the clear spring with its rivulet from which donkeys toiled upward, festooned with calabash bottles like ambulant bunches of gigantic yellow grapes, often with children in possession, single file behind, each with a water-filled calabash balanced on his head.
Many paths led from this spring, winding down over the mountains and far away, but the path to Mama Celie's led upward only to her habitation and ended there. The next nearest family community was on the other side of a deep, mile-wide gorge. We counted them friends and neighbors. We could hear their cocks crowing at dawn, their dogs barking in the evening, and when darkness fell, we could see their cook fires burning. On the drums, we could say to them across the chasm, "Come on, such and such a day," or "Expect us on such another," exchanging simple messages, but to reach their habitation, scarcely a mile distant as the birds flew, we had to journey 7 miles around, down past the spring where the bare gorge narrowed to become a fertile valley, and then up again on the other side, regaining the lost altitude.
Thus, we were isolated not only from the organized world down yonder, the nearest gendarme post, chapel, rural clinic, market were a long day's journey beyond another range, but even somewhat from our neighbors, of whom there were perhaps 50 little family communities scattered far and wide on our own mountain.
Almost every day, despite our isolation, some of these neighbors trailed up from the common spring, sometimes on donkey back, more usually in procession afoot. Family visiting family, but strangers never came.
So far as the world of Urban, Port-au-Prince, and Americanized Haiti was concerned, I might have been on another planet. Yet I do not wish to exaggerate this isolation. Both Maman Celie and Papa Theodore had been down there. They still went perhaps once a year. She went once, in fact, while I was living among them, being gone nearly a week. But that was a very special journey. In general, this mountain-enclosed life went on as if no Port-au-Prince existed.
It was a life I enjoyed, and they let me share it simply from day to day. I learned to make tambour maringouin, mosquito drums, so-called, though they were stringed instruments of which the mechanical contrivance had survived from Africa. With the brats who were still a little afraid of me because of my white face, I rode often with Emmanuel and Raphael, once trying with them to explore the bottom of the gorge. I sometimes lent a hand with them in the fields, if green checkerboard squares tilted at an angle of 45 degrees can properly be called fields. And in the evenings I sat with the rest of the circle while Papa Theodore asked riddles or told tales of how a wily little Negro named T. Malice, a favorite character in all of their fables, had locked up Gros Buki in the potato garden, or how he saved his own skin at the expense of Buki when they fell among cannibals. Many of these tales were of Congo origin, sometimes modified to the West Indian locale, and sometimes not.
All this I found delightful, but between Maman Celie and me there was something deeper, which grew. I knew, of course, that she was a Mamaloi. I knew also that the largest building of the habitation, the only one with locked door, was a home fort. She knew likewise that I was profoundly interested in the religion in which she was an active priestess, and she also understood quite definitely that I wished to write about it. There was complete candor and confidence between us. She herself could neither read nor write, but she was keenly intelligent and understood clearly what I was and what books were. She understood, furthermore, instinctively, that there was no latent intention of betrayal, and that whatever I might write would not be with intent to do them harm. Instinctively, she knew that whatever might grow tree-like from my interest, its roots were buried in soil common to us both.
There's a footnote.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Voodoo is not a secret cult or society in the sense that Freemasonry or the Rosicrucian cult is secret. It is a religion, and secret only as Christianity was secret in the catacombs through fear of persecution. Like every living religion, it has its inner mysteries, but that is secretness in a different sense. It is a religion toward which whites generally have been either scoffers, spies, or active enemies, and whose adherents, therefore, have been forced to practice secrecy above all where whites were concerned. But there is no fixed rule of their religion pledging them to secrecy, and Mama Celie was abrogating nothing more than a protective custom when she gave me her confidence. We talked frequently of the things I had heard first from Louis beneath the palm tree, but Mama Celie made haste slowly. She sometimes said to me, "Petit, petit," meaning little by little or step by step. Perhaps she was wisely waiting until the people of the mountain became thoroughly accustomed to my presence, and finally one day she said, "There's a big Petro ceremonial on Saturday and Sunday over yonder at the habitation of Theodore's brother Ernest. All the mountain will be there, and it is understood you are coming too."
Okay, so the first footnote is not in the book. The second footnote is. It is Petro, or Service Petro, is the name given to the blood sacrificial voodoo ceremony. It derives from the name of a slave who was a famous papaloi in colonial times. There are numerous other voodoo ceremonies in Haiti in which no blood is shed. In March 1927, in company with Dr. Robert Parsons, U.S. Navy, then chief urologist of the General Hospital at Port-au-Prince, Katie Seabrook, and two Haitian friends, we saw a typical Legba service without blood sacrifice on a farm in the hills east of Jacmel. I have not included a description of it in the main text because casual readers might find it repetitious. I quote here from notes made on the following day. Leaving our car off the road, we followed the footpath southward and arrived on a hillside at Auguste's habitation, a group of 3 thatched houses in a clearing, hard-pounded earth. That was weird phrasing. No one was there but Auguste, his wives and children. No signs of special activity, nothing mysterious. They were peasants. Auguste, himself a gray-haired, dignified old Negro in blue overalls, barefooted, a straw hat with a wide, torn brim. He remembered well our appointment, but had waited uncertain of our coming. but he had notified the Haitian gendarme who patrolled that road that there would be no interference. All of us, including Katie, were taken into the mystery house, a simple hut with whitewashed walls, and shown the altar, a low cement platform on which was spread a white cloth, calabash bowls containing millet, cornmeal, white flour, fruits, vegetables, and bouquets of flowers. Beside the altar were 3 drums, tall, pegged, painted, of unequal size, and the acrons, gourd rattles. As old Auguste talked quietly, explaining the meaning of the ceremonial which was to follow, a drummer arrived, fetched from a neighboring habitation. He took out the maman drum, the largest, with a cowhide head. A chair was brought to him. He seated himself with the drum between his knees outside the home fort door, tightened the pegs by pounding them with a stone, and began booming out the Legba assembly call with the 2 hard heels of the palms of his hands. Homemade rush chairs were brought for us, and we sat beside him. Auguste's family had gone inside their house, from which only a dim light came. The compound was dark, deserted. Presently, singly, in 2s and 3s, men and women, children too, appeared and stood or squatted, waiting in the compound. Among them arrived the 2nd and 3rd drummers, and soon all 3 drums were being beaten. Why would you say beaten and not played?
Because they were beating on them. They were banging on them like,
That's how you play drums. You beat on them.
Uh-huh.
But there was no dancing, no movement. The crowd was quiet as if in church. After some 50...
That right there is why they were beating on the drums instead of playing them. There's no dancing.
Yep. After some 50 or 60 people had assembled, the drum call ceased. Auguste, now in his role of papaloi, accompanied only by the mamaloi, his wife, entered the mystery house and knelt before the altar. Neither had any special vestments or symbols of office. The crowd remained outside, some kneeling. The drums began a new measure, and this invocation was chanted. Legba, mi glau, mi manger, femil rimas, femil yo, legba, mi glau, mi manger. Translation is, Legba, food and drink are provided. Family is gathered together with family. Legba, food and drink are provided. As the chant continued, endlessly repeated, the crowd fell back on all sides, leaving a clear space before the home fort. With the drummers sitting beside the door, in this open space, 2 men began digging holes in the hard earth with their machetes. Others came bringing long poles which were set upright in the holes. Cross pieces were lashed to them, running to the home fort roof. There was a sound of chopping outside the compound. A palm tree and another fell crashing in the bush. Boys and girls came bearing great armfuls of palm fronds, singing in the moonlight. With the palm fronds was built a canopy laid awning-wise, making a roof for the bare pole structure. We were watching the building of a primitive temple, which took form before our eyes, built of palm leaves in the tropical moonlight. Next morning, I was told, all trace of it would have disappeared. When the Tunnel temple was finished, like an open-roofed portico before the mystery house, the people crowded around it, making a hollow square. The papaloi emerged from the mystery house, ringing a little tinkling bell and bearing a lighted candle. Behind him came the mamaloi, bearing in her uplifted hands a calabash bowls. Boys and girls followed with bowls, china, cups, and other receptacles. Libations of water, rum, brought consecrated from the altar, were poured on the earth before the drums, and at the 4 corners of the tunnel, cornmeal and white flour were then sprinkled. The drums ceased, and the singing stopped. There was a whispering argument. It evidently concerned us, seated in the shadow, a little away from the drums, keeping ourselves out of the way as much as possible. We guessed it concerned us because faces were turned in our direction, disputing something but amiable and friendly. An old man whispered with the papaloi. The papaloi acquiesced in whatever they were talking about. He laid aside his bell. Somebody handed him a machete, and the mamaloi a short, heavy kokomak stick. In silence, they came over to us. The papaloi, holding the machete in his right hand, gripped my right with his left, then reversed the machete to his left and gripped my left with his hand with his right one. Then he dropped the machete and gripped both hands at once, reversed so that my arms were crossed and his arms were crossed. He did this with each of us, including Katie. The mamaloi followed him, doing the same thing, except that she had the kokomak club instead of the knife, and after she had finished, she kissed each of us on the forehead. I took it to be the survival of a primitive ceremonial toward stranger guests, meaning we could kill you, but we refrain, establishing instead mutual obligation of friendship. I was interested that some of the younger ones crowded around and craned their necks and whispered if they had not seen it before. Then the ceremonial proceeded with no more attention paid to us. The invocation hymn, Papa Legba Ovri Baria Pour Moins, was intoned loudly at first by the papaloi alone, afterward taken up by the whole crowd. The Barii is the gate through which they hope to enter the trans-ecstatic world, transported, leaving their common everyday world and life behind. Seldom does Papa Legba open the gates for all, but usually for a chosen few, and no one ever knows which of the company they may be. They chant this choral for an indefinite period, as a certain hymn may be sung at a revival or in a New York spiritualistic seance until something happens. They help it along now, men, women, and children, by drinking raw rum and dancing. Not the Congo sex dancing, but rocking, rolling, shivering. An old woman shrieks, leaps, and falls senseless. A space is quickly cleared around her, and then we see her as she lies twitching. Presently, another shriek, this time a girl, and soon an old man. The gate has been opened, the loi have come. Those into whom the spirits have entered are the center of all attention. The drumbeat changes and the chant becomes simply, Leloi, 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 hail and welcome to the gods who are present and manifest. Then comparative silence, broken only by two of the ecstatics, who have got to their feet, whirling, leaping, and speaking in strange tongues. Then begins a litany, the papaloi shouting a line, and the people chanting it for many moments, until he makes a sign and a new line is given. Among them, which I took down then, scribbling as best I could on the back of an envelope, and parsons afterward correcting and remembering one or two which I had forgotten were, Pa lâcher pluie sous nos. Do not deluge us with rain. Bad at the moment for the crops. At another season, the plea might be the reverse. Pa lâcher avalas. In Creole, avalas is not always avalanche, but often swollen mountain stream. Pa brûler calais moine. Do not burn my house. Pa tuer cheval moine. Do not kill my horse.
These are pretty reasonable asks of a god.
Yeah. The spelling of Tweer is a lot like Tweer, which is a vent pipe in a foundry.
Oh, okay.
So I'm wondering if that metal casting terms came to us from the French.
I'm relatively certain that many of them probably did, yeah.
A strange one was Pas virer sable. Do not send the sandworm. If you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm.
Uh-huh.
There are no... Oh, I'm sorry. It's sandstorm, not sandworm.
Yep.
Damn, there went the episode title. There are no sandstorms in Haiti. See? It works!
Uh-huh.
I wondered if it was the Creolized version of an older line in the litany brought over from Africa and repeated now traditionally. Other prayers included sparing of crops and protection of homes, beasts, crops, and land from various natural misfortunes. Because Papa Legba is not a slayer or devourer of humans, his litany includes no prayer to spare human lives. And that is the end of the footnote.
Are you going to make me read the whole next fucking footnote? If it happens to fall in one of my
So
extended length paragraphs.
What the fuck? So the first footnote says doesn't say anything, right? It's at the bottom of this page. The second footnote and the third footnote are all in the back of the book.
Yep.
What's the fucking logic of that?
Well, the first footnote is just one fucking paragraph, and I read it for you.
Oh, okay.
The second footnote was what? 5 fucking pages.
6.
Uh-huh. Papa Theodore rode in the forefront of our cavalcade along the narrow trail that wound beyond enclosing rocky defiles, emerging to follow the edge of the cliff, descending through forests of great sablier trees with their spiked trunks, mahogany, and towering pines. Behind him rode Mama Celie on a donkey, and I rode third with Emmanuel, Raphael, Mary Celeste, Catherine, others of the family followed single file afoot. Emily, 6 months pregnant, rode on a basket-laden donkey. It was Saturday mid-afternoon.
In the air, all around us, everywhere and nowhere, I became conscious of a steady, slow boom, 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 boom. And you know what that reminds me of?
Music? Beating drums.
No, specifically.
Sandworms?
No, Harry Shearer's song Deaf Boys.
Not sure if I know that one.
Well, you know who Harry Shearer is.
You may have to refresh my memory.
He's the voice of Mr. Burns on The Simpsons, along with a bunch of others.
Oh, okay.
And he's
Excellent.
he's in all the Christopher Guest mockumentaries. He has
Who did he play in Spinal Tap?
the guy who kind of looks like Lemmy.
The bass player?
I think. I don't. It's been so long.
Oh yeah, it's the bass player. Yeah.
And
Really?
anyways,
I did not know that was the guy who voiced Mr. Burns.
yeah, he Burns, and he did. He's like all of them, just about. He does a bunch. Anyways, there's a link to the YouTube song or the video of that song. It starts out boom, boom.
Stonehenge?
Nope. It's Deaf Boys.
Oh.
Yeah, and it is. It's something. We'll just leave it at that for the moment. It seems sometimes to come from a great distance, like rolling far off thunder beyond hidden valleys. Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, a big hit with tourists coming here for the World Cup, it seems.
Fucking ranch, man.
I know.
It's pretty fucking bland.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life.
It ain't no blue cheese. It ain't no Russian. It's not even 1,000 fucking islands, man. It's the whitest of condiments.
No, that's mayonnaise.
It was pretty much fucking mayonnaise.
And buttermilk and maybe some pepper.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That would be spicy.
It seems sometimes to come from a great distance, like rolling far off thunder beyond hidden valleys and over mountains far away. It's, it seems sometimes to be low and close at hand, just beyond the next turning. At moments, it seemed to be inside my own head or in my veins like a pulse beating. And as we rode farther and the afternoon waned, the steady booming, now louder and closer, became complicated by a hitherto inaudible under rhythm. An incessant throbbing. There's a show title for you. Woven and interwoven around a simple basic motif that emerged thus. Oh, wow. Music notes.
I think that's just drum beats.
Yeah, and it's in 2/4 time.
Well, if it's in 2/4 time, why do they got 3 fucking notes at a rest? Makes no sense to me. Whatever.
It was not syncopation. It was not remotely like jazz. It was pure counterpoint, like a Bach fugue, except that the core of it was slow, unhurried, relentless. There was something cosmic in it, like the rolling of mighty waters. There was something humanely, oh, Jesus Christ. Humanly savage and primitive, too, in its relentlessness as darkness enclosed us and lights began to glimmer red up yonder at the head of a gorge. Now, I have to say, I did witness a quote-unquote shamanic ritual one time. And I say quote-unquote because it was what white people would call shamanism and not what actual people who practice such religious belief would call such a thing. But there was a thing that I noticed is that the person playing on the drum, once they hit a certain rhythm, your thoughts got entrained. So sort of like hypnotism.
Yep. Yeah,
You know,
if my experience with the mud people and their drum circle at the folk festival had taught me anything, that that's once the drugs kick in and the drums are drumming, that's how things work.
We weren't even on any drugs, or at least I wasn't. But
well, the mud people that I'm thinking of were tripping balls. So,
well, like I said, this was a white people thing.
Yeah. This is not so different from my experience.
Yes, but these are white people who were in college to be classical composers.
Oh. Okay.
So, not all that hip.
Yeah, well, the ones I'm thinking of were just like dirty hippies. Whatever. The habitation to which we came was a compound unfenced on a plateau overhanging the gorge, hemmed in by the forest. There were assembled already perhaps 100 Negroes, crowding, moving about like shadows in the red flickering lights. There were 3 or 4 scattered houses, and in the central forefront of the compound was a big open tunnel. The word is misleading, but there is no English equivalent for it. It was a great awning-like roof canopy, rectangular, of straw thatching, erected on poles. In a corner beneath it were the 3 drummers, drumming. The man with the tall central drum used one stick and the hard heel of his right palm, which produced the deepest note. The other 2, with the smaller drums, used their hands with a virtuoso-like varied rapidity. The flat palm, the bunched hard tips of their fingers, the fisted knuckles, the rosin-coated thumb drawn across the drum head, which then emitted a bull-roaring zooming. An old woman stood by and from time to time wiped the sweat from their faces. It was deafening close at hand, and yet, in a curious way, seemed not so thunderous as it had from the couple of 100 yards distant down the trail.
And now the footnote.
Oh my God, there's a footnote?
Yes.
Fuck me. I just read that whole fucking paragraph, and now I gotta skip to page 300. Oh, it's great. The voodoo drums are always 3 in number of unequal sizes called mama, papa, and baby, bula. Sometimes also called kata. Each is long, bulging, cylindrical, made in a solid piece from a length of tree trunk, hollowed and shaped by gouging and burning. The head of the mama drum is usually made of cowhide, sometimes with a fringe of hair left on its edges. The heads of the papa and bula are usually of goat skin. The average height of the drums is about 3 feet for the mama drum, 2 more or less for the papa, and 18 inches for the bula. I have seen drums, however, 5 and 6 feet tall. The head is held in place by pegs wound around with rope or cord. The drums are usually painted, sometimes in mottled colors, perhaps to imitate the body of a snake, sometimes in solid colors, usually red, blue, or yellow. Newly made drums, before being used in a ceremony, undergo a consecration and baptism in which they are given personal names. 3 drums afterward presented to me were thus baptized. They were ranged in a row before the Humfort altar. The large mama drum in the center, flanked by the papa drum and the bula. A flat wooden platter was placed before the central drum with a bottle of rum, sweet cakes, and white bread crumbled. There was also a small cup containing coffee and a single candle burning. A little boy stood before the drums with a cup of water in his left hand and a piece of rock salt in his right. With the rock salt, he made the sign of the cross on his own forehead and afterward dropped the lump of salt in the cup and placed it beside the candle. The papalois then stood before the drums, holding a leafy twig, and called forward an old man and an old woman who had been chosen godfather and godmother for the drums. The papalois asked what name they had selected for the mama drum, and they replied Saint Rose. The godmother and godfather placed their hands on the head of the drum, while the papalois immersed the twig in their salt water and sprinkled the drum 3 times, saying, I baptize you, Saint Rose, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I dedicate you to the service, Petro. The 2 other drums were baptized similarly, and the papa drum as Saint Isidore and the bula as Saint Antoine. These drums... come back to... These drums are of the type called tom-tom in English, but this name for a drum does not exist in Haitian Creole. The only generic word they have for drum is the corrupted French word tambour. Their common non-ritual drum used for Congo dances and working in the fields, shaped also cylindrically, but frequently made of several joined pieces like a barrel and never pegged. Phrasing?
Well, that's nice.
I'd say it's lucky, but you never know. I might be into that. But with the head fastened with cords and commonly called tambour travail, work drum is distinguished generically from the voodoo drum, which is tambourada. There is a Haitian. Something is causing my spare screen to drop out occasionally. Where have you gone? There's a Haitian word tom-tom, but it means a dish prepared with plantains, patates, and malanga. In a Humfort near the main auto road between Gonave and Ennery, I was shown a curious set of rata drums, or rather a substitute therefore, made simply of 3 unequal lengths of a big bamboo, tubes about 4 inches in diameter without heads, on the sides of which the drummer tapped with soft wooden sticks. These had been used, I was told, in 1919 when the Marines were more active in suppressing voodoo ceremonies. Oh, great. A little bit of Merkin interventionism there.
Yeah, oh.
A little bit, okay, with the scare quotes and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the end of the fucking thing. Okay, great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher, and most of the episodes are on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at TParkAtheist, and it's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist. You can email me at trailerparkatheist@gmail.com. Show notes can be found at tparkatheist.blogspot.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to donate to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show's notes page. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.